Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Pradyumna Sharma and I have been teaching history in Nalbari College, Assam in the capacity of Associate Professor. Today our topic of discussion is evolution of oral history. The evolution of oral history refers to how the practice of collecting and studying spoken memories and traditions has developed over time from ancient storytelling to a formal research method in modern historical studies. While discussing the evolution of oral history, we shall deal on both its historical as well as methodological developments, which are to a great extent inclusive in nature. Friends, in this session, we are not going to discuss about the definition of oral history, what oral history is in its essence. We are not going to discuss because it is in the introductory part of this course. But I would like to start this deliberation with a very popular quote from a British oral historian. His name is Paul Thompson, and he is particularly famous for his excellent book, The Voice of the Past, Oral History. I'm quoting him now. Oral history is a history built around people. It allows heroes not just from the leaders, but from the unknown majority of the people. Unquote. So oral history is all about history of the people. It is not comprised of only the elite and the leaders. It also consists of a majority of ordinary commoners who usually remain outside the periphery of mainstream history, or whom we can call hidden from history. Now, oral history is the history of these non-elite commoners as well. With this underpinning about the essence of oral history, we have to move forward in our discussion. Like everything in this on this art, oral history has also its beginning. Prior to the advent of art of writing, all histories are oral in nature. We have innumerable examples to prove this statement. Take the case of Herodotus, the father of history. To prepare his canonical volume on Persian wars, he used first-person interviews to collect information. Thucydides, another renowned Greek historian, interrogated his witnesses to the Peloponnesian War by the most severe and detailed tests possible. He himself admitted this fact. If we move towards Asia, we will find that the emperors of the Zhou dynasty of China employed scribes to record the sayings of the common people for the benefit of the court historians. In Africa, the griots, the storytellers, maintain community histories orally. Historian and anthropologist Jean Bassina, in his famous book Oral Traditions as History, highlighted a Ghanaian proverb. It runs as follows: ancient things remain in years. Ancient things remain in years. What does it mean? It means that the knowledge of the past are stored in our memory. The knowledge of the past is stored in memory. In our Indian tradition also, we find that our sacred texts like the Vedas, the Puranas, the Itihasas, all these were transmitted orally across the centuries. In this stage, oral history was not recorded. It lived through the public memory and performances. Thus, public memory percolated orally by community elders, storytellers, bards, etc. Here we should keep in mind that these types of historical writings do not fit in the formal and more academic notion of oral history of modern times. Yet, we should understand the fact that this was the very foundation on which the later scholars and historians laid the superstructure of modern oral history. And in this way, we can call it the prehistory of oral history. Now, what is the essence of this previous discussion? The essence is that oral method was considered to be of profound value for centuries. But soon it was challenged. We are going to discuss about this challenge. Towards the later half of the 19th century, new ideas like objectivity, rationality, scientific method began to dominate historical writings. And the man behind these ideas, and the man behind this idea was Leopold von Ranke, who was a German theorist and historian. He played a crucial role in professionalizing the discipline by insisting that history should present the past as it actually happened, free from moral judgments or ideological bias. The Rankean method instantly gained ground and became popular in historical scholars. Ranke emphasized the use of primary sources like archival records, state documents, diplomatic papers, etc., which he believed provided verifiable evidence for accurate historical reconstruction. Under such circumstances, oral testimony came to be viewed with suspicion. Unlike written sources, oral evidences can neither be stored in archives nor it can be verified. As a result, oral traditions were marginalized and excluded from serious academic research for about half a century to come. In this way, oral testimony, which was regarded in high esteem, was pushed backward. It is said that every cloud has its silver lining, and the silver lining for oral history is seen with the turn of the century. History has undergone a paradigm shift during the early decades of the 20th century. A new intellectual movement validating oral account began to surface in the West, particularly in America and Britain, which decried the stereotyped political narratives that lacked life and vitality. This new movement favored and promoted the notion of first-person narrative, where an event or topic of a recent past is reconstructed through collecting interviews of direct participants of that particular event. The idea of recording the experience of the first person got wide-scale popularity through the works of an American government organization, and every student of oral history should remember the name of this organization, because this organization was primarily instrumental in laying the foundation of modern oral history. And the name of this organization was the Federal Writers Project. The Federal Writers Project played a crucial role in legitimizing oral testimony as a valuable historical source and contributed to the broader intellectual movement that emphasized capturing the lived experiences of diverse social groups. One of its most, or we can say, one of its singular significant contributions was the large-scale collection of oral histories, which preserved the first-hand accounts of workers, former slaves, immigrants, basically all kinds of ordinary Americans. Scholars from varied disciplines came forward to expand and enrich the Federal Writers Project through collecting life stories of people. And here I would like to give you the example of W.T. Couch, William Terry Couch, who himself was a regional director of the Federal Writers Project. Couch appointed writers who would interview and take note of the interviews of the common Americans in order to capture the rhythm of ordinary life. This project collected approximately 10,000 of first-person narratives, which were deposited later on in the Library of Congress, and by selecting a few from this huge inventory of interviews, William Couch published an anthology of life histories in the year 1939 entitled These Are Our Lives. And These Are Our Lives got instant media and scholastic attention. The next name I would like to uh, cite as an example was Benjamin Bootkin, who was a practicing folklorist, and he turned his attention towards slave narratives. By compiling the first-hand experience of about 300 former slaves, Bootkin published his masterpiece called Lay My Burden Down, a folk history of slavery, which was published in the year 1945. And in the introduction of the book, Bootkin writes, I'm quoting him, from the memories and the lips of former slaves have come the answers which only they can give to questions which Americans still ask. What does it mean to be a slave? What does it mean to be free? And even more, how does it feel? These types of books created an immediate sensation in the contemporary academic diaspora. In this way, the 1930s and 1940s, and for that matter, 1950s as well, may be regarded as the seed time for the emerging trend of oral history. The wide-ranging activities of the Federal Writers Project, along with contributions from numerous scholars, provided much-needed validation to the method of oral testimony. And this, in turn, greatly facilitated the growth of a new and emerging discipline, which now we know as oral history. The scholars who were chiefly responsible for transforming oral history into a formal academic and scholastic field were Allan Nevins and his colleagues at Columbia University in the United States of America. They were the main architect of modern oral history. Nevins and his team consistently worked to make oral history more vibrant and accessible. And their efforts culminated in the establishment of the Oral History Research Office at Columbia University in 1948. And it is from this point onward that the term oral history came into official and widespread use. Initially, Nevins focused on collecting the life stories of prominent and influential American personalities. His distinguished list of interviewees included names like Grover Cleveland, Henry Ford, and John D. Rockefeller, among many others. In contrast to this inclination, to this American inclination towards elite life stories, we observe a distinctly different approach to the study of oral history in Great Britain. The pioneers of oral history in Britain were deeply committed to the works and to the lived experiences of the common working class people. George Edward Evans, one of the foremost figures in this movement, focused on preserving the public memory of a village called Suffolk in England. His notable anthology, Ask the Fellows Who Cut the Hay, stemmed from this effort. It was published in the year 1956. Evans famously remarked that the old survivors were walking books. I'm repeating, the old survivors were walking books, emphasizing the immense historical value embedded in their recollections. It is worth mentioning that Allan Nevins' initial focus on the life stories of elite individuals was to some extent motivated by the need to secure external funding for his initiatives. And such financial support eventually enabled him to establish his dream project, the Oral History Project, at Columbia University. After its inception in 1948, the Oral History Project expanded its scope to encompass the experience of all sections of society, from the influential elite to the non-elite commoners. And this democratic and inclusive approach allowed the Oral History Project to become a pioneering model for oral history research, not only in the United States, but across the world. Now coming to 1960s and 70s. The 60s and 70s marked a significant phase of growth for oral history as various historical developments helped strengthen its conceptual foundations. In 1963, a major breakthrough took place when a Philips company introduced the portable cassette recorder. This device quickly became indispensable to oral history practice, making interviews simpler, less laborious, and far more reliable. Another important landmark of this period was that, with the growing popularity of oral history and its methodology, there emerged a strong need for an intellectual forum for the practitioners of oral history. And responding to this, a 3-day national colloquium on history was convened in September 1966 at Lake Arrowhead. In September 1966 at Lake Arrowhead in California. It was attended by 77 representatives from different professional backgrounds, and this colloquium led to the creation of the Oral History Association, which was the first international organization dedicated to oral history. The conference sought to build consensus on several key issues, including definitions of oral history, directions for future research, interviewing techniques, and professional standards. While some matters were quickly agreed upon, others remained subjects of debate for decades. Interestingly, the colloquium formally endorsed the generic term oral history and also approved the use of tape recorder as an essential tool in its research methodology. From its inception, the Oral History Association worked earnestly to develop a standard, uniform, and comprehensive set of guidelines for the field of oral history. At its third annual meeting in 1968, it adopted its first official framework entitled Goals and Guidelines. This document provided standardized rules for interviewers, interviewees, and sponsoring agencies, and it placed clear emphasis on safeguarding the interest of the interviewees. It asserted that the wishes of the interviewee must guide the conduct of the interview. That means it prioritized the interest of the interviewee. These guidelines set oral history practice for nearly a decade, after which they were periodically revised. The original title Goals and Guidelines was later replaced by Principles and Best Practices, and the most recent revision was issued in the year 2018. Let us now move towards the most eventful phase of oral history, and that is 1970s and 1980s. This phase, that is 70s to 80s, is often regarded as a period of enlightenment for oral history, marked by vigorous interdisciplinary engagements. Several cognate branches of social history, such as Black history, feminist history, labor history, local history, and others, they readily adopted the oral history methodology of first-person narrative to reconstruct their respective fields of inquiry. This widespread methodological shift led to the publication of numerous influential books, which significantly enriched historical scholarship. Alex Haley's The Autobiography of Malcolm X, which was published in 1965, and Roots, The Saga of an American Family, published in 1976, motivated Black Americans to explore their own pasts and played a significant role in popularizing both oral history and family history. Another important work was Turkel's Hard Times, an oral history of the Great Depression, which vividly captures the hardships endured during the Great Depression. Likewise, Sarna Gluck's anthology, From Parlor to Prison, five American suffragists talk about their lives, stand as a significant contribution to feminist scholarship. Together, such works amplified the voices of the marginalized groups and successfully brought their concerns from the periphery into the mainstream of historical discourse. Now, let us move towards the contemporary developments, that is, the digital age of oral history. With the advent of internet and digital technology in 1990s, oral history has entered a new era, a new age. Audiovisual recording, digital archiving, and various online platforms have made oral sources widely accessible. Institutions like British Library's Sound Archive, Indian Memory Project, and various sub-branches of Oral History Association have been instrumental in preserving diverse oral narratives. This integration of technology has ensured that oral history remains a dynamic and evolving field of research. In this way, initiated with pen and paper at its early stage, that means 40s and 50s, and then wire recorder and tape recorder of 1960s, and now well equipped with 21st century digital technology, oral history has marched a long way from its inception. Friends, before we sum up, let us have a quick look at the Indian scenario of oral history. In India, oral history emerged a bit late in comparison to the other parts of the world. The initial phase of Indian oral history includes the works of noted Hindi novelist Amrit Lal Nagar, who worked on two significant publications. In his Gadar Ke Phool, published in 1957, that is the centenary year of the Great Mutiny of 1857, in this book, he collects the memoirs of the inhabitants of Awadh about the Great Mutiny of 1857. His other work, entitled Ye Kothewaliya, published in 1960, was the life stories of the Baijis of Lucknow. Another work, entitled We Are Making History, Women and Telangana Uprising, published by Stree Shakti Sanghatana in 1989, resonates the participation of women in the people's struggle in Telangana. Till today, the most popular field of oral history research in India remains to be the partisan narratives. A number of excellent works has been published so far. The list includes titles such as Borders and Boundaries, Women in India's Participation by Kamla Bhasin and Ritu Menon, which was published in 1998. In the same year, another masterpiece was published, The Other Side of Silence by Urvasi Butalia. Then Home Uprooted, Oral Histories of India's Participation, which was published in 2014 by Deepika Chawla, etc. etc. This list includes. Other important works on diverse issues are Rustam Bharucha's Rajasthan, an oral history, Conversations with Komal Kothari, published in 2003, and another interesting work named Patti, published in 2012. Patti is the life sketch of famous Bollywood actor Johra Sehgal by her own daughter Kiran Sehgal, and it was published in the year 2012. Indira Chaudhary, the noted oral historian of India, She captures the trend of Indian scientific research in her book called A Historian Among Scientists, Reflections on Archiving the History of Science in Post-Colonial India. It was published in the year 2013, and in 2013 there happened another landmark event, and it was it was the establishment of the Oral History Association of India. In 2013, Oral History Association of India was founded with an aim of creation, collection, and dissemination of oral history in India. This association has made its presence felt across the country and is currently being instrumental in creating awareness for oral history research throughout India. A number of oral history projects, such as Sparrow, Indian Memory Project, etc., on multifarious issues with both government and non-government support are being conducted throughout the country. So this was a bird's eye view of Indian scenario of oral history and oral history research. Coming to the conclusion, friends, the evolution of oral history reflects humanity's enduring desire to remember and share experiences. From ancient bards and storytellers to digital archives, oral history has transformed from a living tradition into a recognized academic discipline. It continues to democratize the past by giving voice to those once unheard, reminding us that history is not only written in books, but also spoken through human memory. With this, I would like to give you a reading list on oral history. This is the reading list, some important books on oral history. And I would like to thank you here. Thank you. Thank you very much.